Hey guys, James from SIKKY Manufacturing. As you can see, the 72 Nova now has an engine in it. This episode, I'm going to show you how we took that scan data we collected from the chassis last episode and designed and created the products that make this engine swap so simple to do and perfect engine placement. Let's check it out. We had a few goals when we set out designing this mount kit. Obviously, there's several options out there on the market, so we wanted to make sure we were doing something better and different than what is already out there. And after talking to many a customer and hearing about the frustrations with the headers and the mount kits they're buying from some of the cheaper brands and how things don't fit, or they're drilling holes out, or the header tubes are hitting, we made sure we took our time and designed the ultimate X-body mount kit, ensuring that when you get these parts out of the box, they're going to bolt up, they're going to fit right, and they're going to make your installation headache free. All right, so here we can see that I brought in an LS3 motor and we put the 6L80 trans behind it because that's what's going to be going in this particular car. At the same time we designed this, we made it so it'll fit the popular T56 style geometry as well. But you can see now the Crossmember is in place. We went with a high clearance design that's also extremely strong, but leaves plenty of room to get exhaust through here, and you're still going to be above the bottom of the oil pan. So the installation is really simple. If you ever have to take the Crossmember off, it's simple. You undo these bolts here, and this whole piece right here just drops out of the way. Makes it really easy. Up front here on the engine mounts, it's a little harder to see, but you can see there's a adapter bracket here that bolts right to the subframe, and this uses factory bolt holes, so it drops right in, nice and simple, supports the weight. Again, extremely rigid, but still you can see the urethane bushings in here. They're going to take out a lot of that noise and vibration. The main concern we had with designing this mount kit is we wanted to get the engine as low and far back as possible. So as you can see, we were able to get this engine really low in the engine compartment and as far back as possible. All that stuff's going to do is create a better center of gravity for this car, so it's going to handle better. That was one of the main things we wanted to do, is just make sure we put the engine in the best possible position without having to do any cutting or welding. And the main thing about these SIKKY kits is it's completely bolt in, so you know you're not going to be a welder or be able to fabricate. You can basically take the parts out of the box, bolt them up, and it's all going to fit the way it's supposed to. All right, so now you can see I added the oil pan into the equation here. The clearance is specifically set to be tight. I mean, we're talking probably 1/4 of an inch. Again, we didn't want to make a big space in here because that's just going to push the engine up, but we want to maintain this as low as possible in here. And this is also a large capacity oil pan too, which helps for just about any situation with an LS, depending on how you're using it. If you're drifting, drag racing, road racing this car, it's going to make sure that that pickup tube is always surrounded with oil, and you're not going to be sucking air or having any oil starvation issues. Alright, so now you can see I got the headers in the complete assembly. This side right here is actually the factory air conditioning box that sticks out off the firewall. This particular build, we went with an aftermarket air conditioning setup, so this is all gone, but we wanted to design it so it would fit if you were going to retain that factory box. It is really close here, so you might have to massage a little bit of the sheet metal if you're going to keep it, but it is as close as it can get. I don't know if you can see it, but it's actually not contacting it, but either way it's tight. So here you can see this is where the factory AC system used to be located, so we went with a classic auto air system. Not only does it clean up the engine compartment and make plenty of room for this new motor, but it also improves that system drastically, so it's just going to work a lot better, modernize it basically with, you know, features that it looks like similar to factory on the interior, but everything behind the scenes is updated and working perfect. So this thing's got nice and cool air conditioning for when you're cruising around. Again, this particular model is an LS3, but these headers will fit any LS based engine that has that same style port and bolt pattern. And the collectors are held up high enough here where there's plenty of room to route your exhaust and get out and past the transmission, and then continue the flow of your exhaust right down through here. And because we set these relief cuts into this Crossmember, you got plenty of room to get it by and not have it too low or dragging on the ground. All right, so this is the pan design we ended up with. As I mentioned, it comes with 1/2-inch NPT drains in here in case you're running twin turbos or need to route some oil back to the pan. If not, it'll come with plugs so you can plug it off. Here's a drain bung. And then on this side we have an 1/8-inch NPT if you want to run an oil temp sensor. There are quite a few things that separate the SIKKY pan from the other pans available on the market, but a few of the main ones would be this CNC surfaced flange here, which actually gets machined after it's welded. Make sure there's no warpage, and this is perfectly flat and smooth, which translates to a leak-free oil pan gasket. The trapdoor baffle system ensures that oil stays around your pickup tube during extreme cornering and acceleration. You can also see the tight clearance between the crossmember and the oil pan, which allows this engine placement to be super low and still allow for a high capacity oil pan. Alright, so this is the finished crossmember design. These plates right here are actually what bolt to the frame rail through these 2 holes, and then these 3 holes join this adapter bracket to the crossmember. So you're going to bolt these up through these 2 holes first, and then bring the crossmember up into position, bolt these in place, and then tighten everything down once this is aligned with the transmission. Gives you a little bit of adjustment depending on if your chassis is not perfectly straight, but either way this will get that transmission in the perfect position and make sure it doesn't go anywhere. This robust crossmember was engineered to take a beating and fit all popular transmission options for the X body. The high-performance sleeved urethane bushing does a great job of keeping the transmission where it needs to be, but also absorbing vibration. The crossmember comes with all the high-grade hardware needed to make a proper installation. Alright, so here's a picture of the right engine mount. You can see they're going to be labeled with R and L just to make it really easy because they are different per side. But this sheet metal part here adapts between the subframe and the LS engine, and this is a 6061 billet aluminum mount that we machine and then use a high performance urethane bushing in here to absorb all that vibration. So it's through bolted, so it's going to be extremely strong and you have no issues of anything ever coming apart, but at the same time that vibration will be dampened and reduced because of this urethane bushing. It's pretty tight on the underside here, but you can see the billet engine mount and the sheet metal bracket that adapts it to the subframe, as well as the oil filter relocation kit. Here's the finished header for the right side. Engine 7/8 primaries are all one piece, and they get TIG welded to this 3-inch merge collector. And it's not in this picture, but inside here there's a merge bullet which allows these pulses to align and keeps the turbulence down in here, which obviously you don't want turbulence in a header. You want it to be flowing smooth and fast, and the quicker we get that air out and the easier we get it out, the more power we're going to make with these headers. So these are all 304 stainless steel flanges, collectors, and includes this V-band flange. And the headers also come with the other half of the V-band as well as the clamp, so just going to make it a really simple installation. The way we build these headers in-house here, they are TIG welded and back purged while they're being TIG welded. It's a very important step. Back purging a TIG welded header is a must do if you want to make sure that weld goes all the way through, so it ends up with essentially a mirror image of the weld on the inside, making it much stronger and sure that it'll last a lifetime. As you can see here, the header design turned out perfect. It's definitely tight in this engine compartment, but we were able to work around the factory steering box and get these 1 7/8 tubes where they needed to be. No contact on the chassis, so you know they're going to fit right and bolt right in. Here you can see what the classic auto air interior controls look like. Nice and clean, looks OEM. It's going to get the job done. We went with a 6L80 auto trans of this setup, and it also received a Circle D torque converter. The Dakota digital cluster turned out great. Gets us all the information we're going to need on the dash, and everything's working like it should. We ended up going for a nitro gear and axle posi kit with a 373 gear. Here's another angle of the nitro rear, which is essentially a 10 bolt that's been upgraded with the posi unit. You can also see the SIKKY brake lines that are placed all the factory stuff with these nylon steel braided. We went with these massive Wilwood brakes to make sure this car is going to stop with all this newfound power. Alright, moment of truth. Let's start this thing up and see how it sounds. Like it. All right, time to get this thing on the dyno. All right, let's take this thing for a test drive. Tell a huge difference right away with the brakes. I mean, putting the new setup on here definitely tightened things up. It's got so much more power now too. It's a little surprising how when driving this thing around, it doesn't get very good traction considering it's got some decent sized tires on it, so. Starting to get a little warm in here, and now we can turn on the AC, which makes it really nice compared to the way it was before. I mean, obviously you want to be able to take the car, cruise around in the summertime and enjoy it and not be sweating your butt off, so. It's the old have your cake and eat it too scenario. We got plenty of power on tap, but we have a working air conditioning system, awesome brakes, and just a massive improvement to the way the car drives. So the new rear, we're getting all that power to the ground with that posi, and it still has trouble getting traction off the get here. But either way, it hooks up way better than it did with that single wheel wonder that was on it before. So cruise is pretty good too on the highway. So this is the 6L80 transmission, which is the same, you know, it come in like a 2010 Camaro automatic, same motor too, the L99, but it made great power on the dyno. All right, let's open her up on the highway. God damn. Shits and gets. So really happy with the way the header design turned out. This thing sounds awesome. I mean, we're utilizing the customer's exhaust that was on the car when it came in, but I just like the way the notes stack up, and it sounds really good at idle. You know, we're sitting here at a street light, and not sure if the mic's picking it up right, but it's definitely a head turning kind of sound coming out of the back of this car. So worked out great, fits good, no rattling, nothing's touching anything. The design of the headers fit in the parameters we had to work with, and you know, just worked out perfect. So even the engine mounts too, I mean, you can feel the engine is tight and held in place. You know, the urethane's doing its job, but it's not shaking your teeth out, so it's still got a comfortable ride, something you would expect out of a muscle car. So that worked out awesome. Trans bracket too, everything's real tight and stiff, but it still allows that engine to move and absorb that vibration that would make it an uncomfortable ride. All right, so I think we checked all the boxes with this project. It worked out awesome. Couldn't be happier. The car is very maneuverable. You can drive it, you can putt around if you want, cruise. When you want to step on it, you can definitely do that. It definitely turns some heads. I cannot test drive this thing anywhere without having 15 people stop me and ask me questions about the car, so it's a looker. The interior, we didn't really do much on this car because the owner wanted to tackle a lot other than getting the AC system in here and working right, which it's working amazing right now. I wish you could feel it. Either way, really happy with this project, and I think the customer will be too. Well, that was a fun test drive. Man, I can't imagine being able to drive this thing every day, but unfortunately we got to give it back to the customer. So until next time we get to work on it, it was awesome.